Hi everybody, welcome to Narcissistic. My name is Jennifer. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. If you don't mind, I would really appreciate it. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about bullying, and I am trying to be a little bit quiet. I have a new puppy and she is literally sleeping right behind me on the couch, and I don't want her to get all hyper, so I apologize if if that ends up happening, but we're going to try to keep it on the quiet and let her nap away. So I wanted to do a video on bullying. I have talked about bullying often on this channel. I mentioned bullying. I have talked about myself before. Again, I'm not sure if it's in videos here or if it's been on my podcast or maybe just on my social media pages. I also have a support group page on Facebook, so you can maybe try to find support there. There's plenty of other support groups on Facebook as well. But so sometimes I don't remember where exactly I post some of the stories, but I have been bullied. Narcissistic abuse is emotional abuse, and it is a form of being bullied. And so I wanted to talk about this in the sense of taking it back a ways, because I am a grown adult, but I was bullied as a child, and I was also bullied in middle school, and I was also bullied in high school. And I watched a faux documentary on Amazon Prime. I just happened to come across it, and I was just kind of reading through what it was about, and I was like, wow, let me check this out. I didn't realize at the time it was like a faux documentary. I thought when I was watching it, I really thought it was real. It was very triggering for me, so I want to go ahead and prepare you for that before I tell you, what it is. I'm hoping that you'll go over and check it out, but it was quite triggering, and it was for me just because, of part of my history. So we're going to go back a ways to being kids and being in high school. And I want to do this video for the bullies, and I also want to do the video for the victims of the bullies. Bullies are also victims. Hurt people tend to hurt people, and hurt people can also help people. And, so if someone is a bully and is hurting people, it can be turned around, and you can use your passion to help people. So I hope this video helps people. So this faux documentary that I watched, I have some notes here because I get nervous when I'm on camera, and I tend to forget things because of my nerves. So I do apologize. I'm just not that great at doing the YouTube as some of the other YouTubers, but I do have compassion, and so I'm here to support in any way I can. So I hope that you will just understand that I am a little nervous. I know some people probably think I'm not, but I am a ball of nerves. This documentary was on Amazon Prime. It is called A Girl Like Her. And the main characters in this faux documentary is Avery Kelly and Jessica Burns. They are in high school, and they used to be best friends. And Avery has gotten upset, unbeknownst to Jessica. She doesn't understand why. They were best friends for years, and is now bullying her. And it is all day long, every day. And Jessica doesn't want to tell anybody. One, she's embarrassed by it. Two, she doesn't know how to explain what's happening. She doesn't know if anybody will believe her. And she also doesn't want it to get worse. And who is she going to turn to? Because people who bully, they have a lot of like minions around them, other people that will flock around them because, one, they may want, let's just say, like in this faux documentary, Avery Kelly was very popular. And so people wanted to hang out with her because she was popular. And she was someone who had a lot of power, in a sense, because people followed her. She was a leader and she had her followers. And her followers, even though they may see that she's doing things that might not be, all that nice, they can tend to fall into line because they want to be accepted. Everybody wants to be accepted. And, it's really tough when we're young because we're just trying to figure out who we are and we just want to fit in and we don't want to be the outcast. And it does feel bad. But either way, wherever you are, it can still feel bad in some ways, right? So in this faux documentary, Avery bullied her ex-best friend Jessica relentlessly. And Jessica had another best friend, he was a guy, and he wanted to document. He wanted her to wear a camera, and he felt like it was so bad. And he tried to get her to tell someone, like a teacher or a counselor at school, her parents, anybody. And he wanted to tell, but she made him swear to secrecy. Please don't tell anybody. It'll only get worse. She was just so paranoid about it. And so he wanted her to wear a camera. And for 6 months, she did decide to wear a camera. And the bullying was put on camera. And she was relentlessly bullied by this Avery girl. And not only was she bullied by her, the minions, the flying monkeys, the friends that hung out with Avery because they wanted to also be in the popular group, they stood by and watched it if they didn't join in. It's kind of like, when we were kids, we remember watching Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And, Rudolph had, this big red nose and was teased and teased and teased. And yet, in the end, Santa saw that red nose could do some good and was very helpful, and that Rudolph could be courageous and go and help lead the way into the foggy storm so that Christmas could happen for children. And and then it was a happy ending, right? But when you're in middle school, in real life, when you're in elementary school or middle school or high school, and you're joining in, even if you're watching people get beat up and say you're filming it and things like that, that is playing a major role. You are participating in the bullying. This is if I'm speaking to someone who has bullied. And people who bully, they're just trying to find some control in their life and get some power back. They may have lost some power and control in their life somewhere else in their life. It may be at home where their parents are fighting all the time, or their parents are divorced and, there's all kinds of issues going on, fighting all the time, or, issues with them going back and forth to their parents' home. There could be all kinds of situations going on underneath the surface that nobody knows. And the bully may be too ashamed, kind of like Jessica, who was the victim, to go and tell anybody. And so the bully lashes out in other ways and takes it out on other people or in other ways to get to feel some sort of control in their life. Doesn't make it right, but it's understandable. And so teaching our children coping skills and ways to handle things that happen in life is one of, in my opinion, the most important things that we can teach our children today. And so I want to bring awareness about it. When you see in today's times, this has been happening since I can remember, but we're seeing more and more and more of it because of social media and other ways that people can be bullied. We are seeing more and more suicide amongst even young children that are even in elementary school. And that has to stop. People's lives are important, and we shouldn't put people down to make ourselves feel better. And we should all have a place to go and feel safe and be able to speak about what's going on with us. Jessica felt like she had nowhere to go other than this one friend of hers who wanted her to document it on camera. He also was documenting, things when he was talking with her as well. But what ended up happening is Jessica ended up taking a bunch of pills that she found in her parents' house, some that were left over from something that had happened, medically with them at some point, and they weren't thrown out. And she took them all, and she went into a coma, and she was in the hospital, and they didn't know if she was going to live or not. And the bully, it was as if this wasn't happening. And there was a crew that came into the school and wanted to do a documentary on this. And they started hearing the buzz about how Avery and Jessica didn't get along. And so they approached Avery about it. And Avery was like, what? We just, we used to be friends and we're not anymore. It's just high school stuff. It's just like joking around. It's like, whatever, we're just not friends anymore. And what's the big deal kind of thing. And giggly and had her friends around and really didn't show any empathy for the fact that her ex-best friend is in the hospital and could die, and her family and what they may be going through. It was all about Avery and Avery's world in high school, and people, she literally was, it was as if she was oblivious to it. It was just all about her and how she could puppet people's feelings and get her way. And so when an example would be, they had a card that was going around the school, and a girl approached the group and said, hey, would you guys like to sign the card? I think there might have been a couple of people that might have signed it and others just didn't. They're like looking to Avery like, are you going to sign the card? Should we sign the card? I don't want to, if I sign the card, are you going to be mad at me? Are you going to lash out at me? Like, how's that going to go? I don't know. I kind of feel like we should sign the card, but... And Avery's like, I'm not going to sign the card. And they're like, really? And she's like, no. Why would I sign the card? We're not friends. Like, why would I sign the card? And that was really telling, because it's like, okay, so you guys had decided to part ways and not be friends. However, she did used to be your friend. It's a person who is a living person, and don't you care about someone's life? And care about her family, her brother, her mother, her father, her friends, her other family members, anybody that knew her. Don't you care about her life? And couldn't you say something nice? You were friends for years, and just, I'm sorry this is happening. I hope you get better. It was like this protective mechanism that happened over Avery. I think she knew that she played a big role in why Jessica did what she did. And she was eventually approached about this. And of course, she denied it. But before that, I want to say that they went into her home, Avery's home, and they went to go and meet the parents. And the mother was extremely narcissistic. I found this part very interesting in the documentary, but she was extremely narcissistic. And she felt it was so prestigious that her daughter Avery was chosen to have a big part of this documentary. And she was saying, she kept repeating that it was all about Avery. This documentary is all about Avery. And it was a lot about Avery, because the reason the documentary kind of went her way is to see what's going on inside the bully's mind. And what can we do to make things different and help the bully? And she needed to be accountable. Now, Avery didn't realize that either. She thought it was just about how popular she was and her friends and let's follow me around and what it's like to be the popular girl in school. She really saw it that way as well. And her mom was just so proud of her that she was the chosen one. I believe those were the words that she used, was the chosen one. And so her daughter is an extension of her. So her mother was feeling like it was her, because, I'm so special, she is special. and how wonderful that this opportunity has presented itself, and that everyone is in our home now, and that she, the mother, is able to be a part of it all. And it showed a lot about why, it showed their home life as well, and it did explain a lot about why Avery was the way that she was and what she was going through. And I did have empathy for her. However, it doesn't excuse how she treated her friend Jessica. And eventually the flying monkeys, what we call flying monkeys when we talk about narcissistic personality disorder, or when we, or minions, it would be the friends that congregated around her coterie. They turned on her because they didn't want to get in trouble, or at least one of them took on the lead and was like, I'm not getting in trouble for this. I didn't do it. However, she wasn't being accountable for her role in it. She was a part of it. She allowed it, she watched it, and she participated. But she wanted to wash her hands of it. So she figured, let's go ahead and get on top of this, get control of this, and go ahead and turn this into the principal. And they all turned on Avery. And Avery then felt victimized and felt betrayed. And she felt like she had lost all of her friends and that everybody was blaming her. And she didn't want all the accountability. So she blame shifted. She deflected. She did everything she could to push it off of her because she couldn't sit in that shame. She actually did tell Jessica to just, why don't you just kill yourself? I mean, why are you even like here? It's like she's talking like that. Why are you even here? Like, you just need to just die. Nobody likes you. You know, she treated her like that. This happens all the time in real life. When we see movies and documentaries and TV shows, you know, movies like Mean Girls, and I loved the movie. I thought it was really funny back in the day. We laugh at these things, but the reality of it is these are real things that really go on in everyday life. It could be even with older people, you know, it could be in the office and things like that. But I still want to keep it back to the high schoolers and ages below that. You know, everything changes, like so much changes when you get out of school, when you're out of high school, even out of college. So much changes, and you look back and, you know, it's like, why did I do that? Or why would I do that? Or why do people do that? And, you know, you may be ashamed, certainly if somebody kills themselves. And I know I live in a state, I have heard, even in my city, time and time again, I hear of kids committing suicide. I remember one year, a couple of years back, there was this one particular school, and I won't name it. I believe I heard 3 different times in 1 year of kids committing suicide, and I was just blown away by it. And I was like, why is this happening? And the young people were telling me about, well, social media and how things can be spread so quickly. And I was like, wow, you know, I was bullied when I was younger. I can only imagine what it would have been like for me had we had social media back then. I don't know how things would have turned out for me had I been going through some of the things that I did if we had social media back in the day. And just so many other ways for things to get out. I mean, you think about, we have TikTok, we have Instagram, Facebook, Messenger. There's so many different ways for kids to just smear somebody and really get it out there. And the thing is people can think it's funny, like a movie like Mean Girls, and just jump right in there and start to be the piranhas and attack someone else and think it's funny. It's not funny when somebody wants to die because of it. They don't know how to get away from it. It's not like a young person can just pack their bags and move away and go to another city. They're stuck. They're living with their family. And they may not want to tell their parents because they're afraid that their parents will go to the school. It'll get worse. They're humiliated. Their parents love them and think they're wonderful, and they may not want their parents to. They may be just embarrassed and ashamed of it. And so they're trying to deal with it on their own. And I just feel like that is a lot to take on, because people can be so mean. People can be mean as adults too. but children can be really mean. I've talked about, when I was a kid, there were some girls, they were much older than me, that tied me to a tree and used to beat me and tease me, and they would leave me tied to the tree. They actually, I would take wire and stuff too and tie me. I was really young, so I don't remember exactly how every little detail of it, but I remember trying to break free and crying, and I was ashamed and embarrassed of it, and I was really young. When I was in middle school, I was bullied by a group of girls. Really, it was a group of girls, but really it was one girl. And I've told this story before, but basically she just came up to me one day in school. I was just walking, to class just like anybody. And she told me, I think the guy's name was Keith. I don't really remember. We'll go with Keith. But she was like, something like along the lines of, don't you ever talk to Keith. And I was with a friend, and I was like, Keith who? And she was like, don't you talk to any Keith. And I was like, okay. And she was like, really mean. And I looked at my friend, I was like, what is that? And she was like, she's dating da 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 da. And I was like, I don't even know who that is. And so I don't know what was said or what made her come to me and say that outside of me. I never to this day found out. But this girl and her two friends, and they were kind of like bigger than me and like mean. And they made my life a living hell for quite a while. It was months anyway, and I didn't know how to fight. I remember there were guys that lived in my neighborhood, and they were like, you just need to learn how to fight, because this girl was always acting like she was going to beat me up. They all did. They would surround me. I'd go in the bathroom. There they would be. It seemed like everywhere I went, they were there. They wouldn't let me walk on school grounds. I was always late to class because they wouldn't let me go on school grounds. They would follow me after school. There they were, and I walked to school. And they were relentless. If I was, when we were dressing out for PE, things, they were just always there hounding me, walking down the hall, talking about me, trying to turn other people against me. And I was living with my grandmother at the time, and really the only thing to do was either play in the neighborhood or go to the skating rink. There they were at the skating rink. And I remember finally, after months of it, I was like, I'd had it. And I was like, whatever, if you're going to beat me up, just let's go for it. And I was just ready to go for it. And so it kind of went down in the bathroom. And, I got a bloody nose and stuff like that. And my shirt got all messed up. And, my grandmother was so mad. She had to come and pick me up. And I was banned from going to the skating rink for the rest of the summer, which was fine by me. And I remember my grandmother being really upset with me. And then I told her what had been going on. She had no idea the entire time. I was too embarrassed to tell her. I didn't know how to tell her. I didn't know what she would do. I know she would have gone straight to the school because she had worked in the school system and stuff like that. And I just felt like it was just going to get worse for me. And I was just really embarrassed by it. And I didn't know how to explain it. But I finally did get sick of it and handled it probably in a bad way. But my grandmother understood, thank goodness. She was really mad when she picked me up, but she really understood when I gave her, I finally just cried and told her the whole thing. And so it kind of, she was really understanding, and I really appreciated her support. When I was in high school, same thing. I was date raped in high school. I have talked about that before. It was traumatic for me. I didn't want to tell anybody. I had never been with anybody before. It was very traumatic for me. I do not like to talk about it still to this day. It makes me upset. So I kind of like skip, let's just kind of talk about it really quick. But the person who did that to me then went to the school and made it seem like something else. And I was the new girl. And a lot of the girls that really, I guess, liked him or whatever, began to bully me. And it was horrible abuse that I was going through emotionally. And because of that, I ended up not going back to that particular school for the next year or so. And I suffered in silence until I was an adult. I told my mom, it's only been a few years ago. And I just started really talking about it. It was really, really difficult for me to go through that. And I did have a best friend, and he was there for me. But so I did have somebody to talk to. But this this can cause people to get very depressed and want to commit suicide. And so what can we do to stop this? Now, I talk about narcissistic personality disorder, but kids that are high school age and younger, that is not, you can't really diagnose someone with NPD when they're that young. And so a lot of times it's diagnosed as oppositional defiant disorder. And so can we do something to help people have coping skills, whether they're the bully or the victim of the bully? Each side have one where they have groups that they can go and talk to, or some way privately that they can talk to someone and just get support. You know, we have social media. Is there any way to maybe do it where people don't know who they are, but they're still getting support? You know, I know there's hotlines and things like that are out there for people who are going through domestic violence and so on. But what can we do in the school systems? What can we do at home? You know, it would be nice to write a book about it or something, but I'm not a great writer, but you know, I could maybe try. So, but as a whole, what can we do to help as parents, as teachers? What are the signs when you see someone going from being really outgoing to all of a sudden isolating themselves and being quiet, or at being sick all of a sudden where they were there all the time and now they're late to class, or they are not showing up for class? When we see a change, yes, you can go and maybe ask a child what's going on, but we need to go a step further. You know, should we call home? Should we, what can we do? And I think that's important for us all to have a conversation about. There are anti-bullying laws in schools. However, do they really work? They had anti-bullying laws when my daughter was in high school and she was bullied. And it was really a rough road that year. I was at the school a lot that year. We ended up in court. It was a nightmare. And a lot of her, I'm not going to say what year, I probably talked about it before, but a lot of that year was really difficult for her. And hopefully, I think, her and everybody that was involved with that has worked things out as adults, and that's great. And because we don't want kids that have oppositional defiant disorder to grow up and have NPD or antisocial personality disorder. And if there's something that we can do to change that, I think that's something that we should look into, right? Because they're looking at 50% or more of people being diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder going forward. And that is really difficult. And it is something that just basically cannot be changed, because people with narcissistic personality disorder don't self-reflect. They certainly aren't accountable for anything. They don't want to take responsibility for their part. They have to blame, shift, and deflect and put it on everybody else, because they cannot sit in that shame. It has to be somebody else's fault. And so we don't want it to go any farther. So what do we do about those anti-bullying laws? Are they being followed? What's happening in the school systems? What can we do to make sure that they're outlets for kids, whether it be the bully who needs someone to talk to about things that are going on within them, and maybe even at home, or the victims, because we don't want to see any more suicide happening. And I know for a fact that it is not fun to be bullied. It is very lonely going through something like that. And we don't have to be victims. We can be survivors of things like that. It takes courage for people to come out and speak up, whether you are someone who's the follower. You might be ashamed that you stood and watched somebody get beat up and maybe even videoed it, and then shared it with other people and maybe laughed about it later. You may later feel ashamed if something worse came of that. but it takes a lot of courage to say, hey, I did something that was wrong. It made me uncomfortable. I didn't know how to handle it at the time. It's part of growing up, and you can be a voice of change and help other people, and sometimes being the courageous one isn't exactly the most popular thing in the moment, but in time, you have your character, and and you're a good person, and you can do so many things. You can help so many people. You have no idea what your voice can do to help someone else. And so this is for the bullies. This is for the victims of the bullies. Don't be bullying. Don't be mean to people. It's not nice, and it might make you feel good in the moment, but really in the long run, it's only making you feel worse. And why is it that you're doing it? Why is it that bullies bully? Something deeper is going on. And they are victims too, and they need help too. So we need help for all. We don't want any more suicides in school. No more of that. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. So change can happen, and voices and courage, just bring it out and help each other. And you would be amazed at how much you can make a difference in society, in your school, in your neighborhoods, in your churches, at your job. So many different ways you can make a change. So this video is for you. I hope it helps, and please leave a comment if you'd like, and just, hey, if you have been bullied before, leave a comment and let me know how you were bullied and how you handled it. If you've been the bully before, maybe make a comment and how you made a change in somebody's life or changed your life, or what you think could change things. I'd love to hear from you. Anyway, thank you so much. And until next time, I will see you. Please like, share, and subscribe. Bye.